Hello. I'm going to answer 4 questions today. I hope you're doing great. I've got 4 questions that I've been asked that I want to address. So, number one is when is it the right time to buy versus investing or getting out of debt? Number two is when I do want to buy, I'm a first-time home buyer. What are the three main blocks that people run into? The third thing I want to cover is interest rates, where they're at, where they're going. And the last thing is going to be a deep dive on where are home prices going. So stay with me and I'll go ahead and tackle all those questions, but welcome and thanks for joining me. I'm Josh Thomas, mortgage broker here in Utah. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into that first question. So when is it the right time to buy? If I qualify for a house, is it time to buy when I qualify? Is it time to buy after I've paid off all my debt? Is it time to buy after I've saved for a down payment? And there's a lot of places we can go with that. So I'm just going to give you the quick, simple answer. My perspective, 23 years doing this, watching thousands of people's buy. I'm going to tell you that I think the moment that you qualify is the moment you should buy, with very few exceptions. There will be exceptions. Every human's different. Every family's a little different. But I'm going to say that it's my opinion that most people, if they can buy, they should buy. Now, we're going to talk about those three things in a second that block them, but down payment's a common one. I don't think people should save up for a down payment. If they can qualify, we've got down payment assistance that we can help them out with there. If they have a down payment, great. But frankly, a lot of people call me up, they've already got their debts paid off, they've already got down payment saved up. And as much as that's easier on me, it's easier for my job, I think it sets them back just a little bit. So when should I buy? So I'm going to hit the 7 steps to financial freedom. I learned these back in 2011 from some really smart financial planner people, and I just thought they were really, really great. And so step 1 is going to be budgeting, knowing how to budget, knowing how much income you have coming in, how much you have going out, and kind of knowing the difference, checking your cash flow. Number 2 is then increasing your cash flow by reducing the budget. Step 3 is going to be emergency fund. Step 4 is going to be insurances to protect your family. And business, I suppose. Step 5 will be getting out of debt. Step 6 is accumulating for retirement. And step 7 is estate planning. Now, I think 5 and 6 can interchange, but at what point does somebody say, okay, it's time for me to buy a house? Well, buying a house, as you know, is no simple deal. Reality is we're going to be paying rent anyway in most situations if we're not already, if we're not going to own a home. And so it's kind of exchanging some dollars, but it's not an apples to apples comparison. As you know, one of the beautiful things about buying a house is that you own it, right? But it has responsibility and benefits that come with that same payment. So a lot of cases here in Utah, we're seeing a lot of people who might be paying like $1,800 a month in their rent. And when they buy a house, it might be a $3,000 rent payment or mortgage payment. And they're having a hard time, because that's a big gap. And that's why so many people are struggling to buy their first home. But remember, with this $3,000 payment, probably $500 of that is actually going to be a loan repayment, meaning you're creating home equity with every single one of those payments. It's almost like a forced savings account at $5,000 or $500 a month. There's also tax benefits. In some cases, people are saving $200-300 a month in taxes as a result of their mortgage. So that gets them closer and closer to that $1,800 a month that they're already paying. So should they invest in their retirement? So in my observation, I think sometimes people come to me and they're well invested in their 401k, and I'm talking about first-time home buyers, right? Once you buy, and as soon as you think you can contribute, you absolutely should. But if you haven't bought yet and you're avidly adding to a retirement account, I think that you might not understand what you're doing. Like, why did you choose to invest in your retirement account? And why are you choosing not to purchase a home? Because more than likely, if you're doing that, you probably can qualify to buy a house. And so just walk down this road with me here for a second. And this is just one of the many things you can talk about in answering this question. But if I've got, let's say I put $20,000 into a 401k, and that's investing, it's growing, it's being, invested through the accounts that I have it with. And I'm hoping that by the end of the year, maybe I'm going to earn around 10%. So if I got 20,000, 10%, that'd be a $2,000 gain, right? Now, some people get a little bit more than that, but let's be realistic. most of us are happy if we're getting even 10% in that account. Set 7% and we're pretty happy. Same money, $20,000. We use that to buy a house instead, or maybe we take it out of the 401k and we put it in the house. It's interesting to me how often people are like, "Oh no, I'm not touching that 401k. I'm going to buy a house, but we're not touching that account." And again, it's just, you feel like there's two different parts of your life, but they're the same. They're your finances. Your finances belong under one roof. They all work together for the same cause. And frankly, we often miss the clarity of what that cause is. And so that's what I'm trying to elaborate. So if we put if we take the $20,000 and we put it into a house, and let's just say we used it to buy a $500,000 house, maybe it'd be better if we chose, my numbers are not going to work all that great if I do this. 500,000 is a little bit bigger than a first-time home buyer price in Utah, so whatever. But if I buy a $500,000 house with it, 20%, that's roughly 3.5–4% down. If I do that, I'm stuck on this percentage in my head. I'm recording a message here and I should be like, I should have these numbers. I'm just pulling them out of the air, but $20,000 for a house that was $500,000 to buy. If that $500,000 house, historically they go up about 6% per year. We're not doing that right now. 6% on a $500,000 house would be a $30,000 gain. That'd be a really big gain. But even if we just get 1 or 2 or 3%, which is kind of what it's been doing the last few years, 2% of 500,000 is going to be $10,000, right? We're going to gain $10,000 in 1 year in new equity in that house, and we put $20,000 into it. That's a 50% rate of return. There's no way we're going to get a 50% rate of return in our 401k. And here's the thing is, okay, if I use it to buy a house, granted, I don't have anything left in my 401k. It's all in the house now. But the house is growing faster, and you're not putting money in rent. You're putting it into your house. Like I said, $500 a month or so is repaying that loan on top of the gain of the house. So it just doesn't compare well. But if you know why you're trying to put that money away, why you're trying to get out of debt, then you understand that buying a house is probably one of the best things you can do. Now, if you already have a house, you definitely want to get out of debt, right? You definitely want to accumulate for retirement as soon as you can. But pay attention to the 7 steps to financial freedom, and notice the sequence, right? Budgeting, cash flow, and emergency funds, insurances. Do we have all those in place before we look at getting out of debt? Before we look at accumulating for retirement or working on our estate plans? Now, our estate plans, I would argue, should probably be looked at very early. But anyway, so that's roughly how I would answer that question for somebody who's asking, when should I buy? Should I, versus investing? Should I invest in my 401k? Should I have so much in there? Should I have so much for retirement first and then buy a house a little bit later? No. If you qualify to buy a house, you should buy a house. That's my answer. 9 out of 10 times that's going to apply. And if you disagree or if you have certain concerns, throw them in the chat down below. Let's open up a dialogue and get you some answers. I'm not saying I'm going to convince you, but I've been doing this for 23 years. I've watched thousands of families apply for and buy homes, and I can share a lot of their perspective and wisdom with you. So, okay, question number 2. I want to buy a house. First-time home buyer. What are the 3 common blockers? What are 3 things that often block first-time home buyers? Number 1 is down payment. That's one of the biggest challenges. Now, roughly answering that question, there are 5 agencies in the United States that are responsible for almost all the loans. USDA, VA, FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. Now, VA and USDA, they don't even have down payment requirements. So if you qualify for one of them, they finance 100% of the house. So that's a big deal. Number 2, FHA. FHA is, they finance 96.5% of the house. And then for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they finance, for first-time home buyers, up to 97% of the house. And so each of those 3 require roughly 3%, 3.5% down payment. But there are so many varieties of down payment assistance, hence what I said earlier, that if I don't have a down payment but I can qualify for a house, I would still recommend buying a house in most cases. So down payment, look for some other videos. I got a bunch of them that I've made talking about down payment assistance. And one of them, I did an avatar of The Rock. I thought it was kind of cute. You know, The Rock knows everything, so why not? So down payment's one of the big blockers for first-time home buyers, but don't let it block you. Number two would be the credit. I've also done a lot of videos about credit. There's a lot of information about credit out there. So you can have pretty beat up credit and still be able to get a house. FHA, for example, goes down to a 500 credit score if you put 10% down. They go down to a 580 score with 3.5% down. VA goes down to a 580 credit score. Technically, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac don't even have lower limitations, but 620 roughly is where conventional loans will bottom out. And so those are pretty rough credit scores and you can still qualify for a house. Anything over 620 and the world's going to be your oyster. We're going to have some options that are going to work for you. But if you want a quick cheap fix, there's basically one thing so thousands of people, thousands of credit reports. I stopped referring people to credit repair for the most part, because in most cases, people don't need to repair their credit, and repairing is frankly difficult. The things that need to be repaired are frankly difficult. The things that we ignore are a lot of the things that can be repaired. So what most people need to do is rebuild. And I recently did a video about this, but I would just tell you, if you have 3 open credit cards and those 3 credit cards have $20 balances on them, even if they're secured credit cards, because you're recovering from a really bad credit score, even if they're secured, 3 open credit cards will get you there. You just need to keep those balances low, put like a Netflix account on them or something like that, and then just churn them every month, pay it off, and then wait till it charges up again and pay it off. You have 3 of those going on. As long as you don't have any other bleeding going on, right, where you have, accounts that have late payments or anything like that, as long as the bleeding is stopped, your score is going to climb very quickly. You're talking months to maybe a year, and you'll have a good, strong credit score. So that's the second blocker, the credit score, but it really shouldn't block as many people as it does. And then third, and this one's probably the biggest one in my opinion, is the payment shock. So payment shock comes in kind of 2 categories. So payment shock, like, oh my gosh, my payment's going to be what? It's genuine shock. Whether or not I can afford it, it's kind of irrelevant. I can't imagine making that house payment. $400,000 house, you're probably pushing $3,000 a month. Now, we do have some payment hacks, some ways that we help people reduce those payments, a couple of them. So message me if that's a concern. Hit me in the comments and I can elaborate. So payment shock, that's one of them. In fact, I've got maybe a third idea for that as well, on how to kind of get used to it. But the other one is payment shock in that I can't qualify for it. You may have heard, we tell people you have to make $80,000 a year to be able to buy a house. And that's one income. If you have more, if there's 2 borrowers, it's $40,000 each. If you're buying outside the Wasatch Front, maybe some of rural Utah, it might be much less than that, 50, 60,000 and be able to qualify. But if that's more than where you're at, then obviously the monthly payments required to buy is going to kind of push you out. And so going back to those payment hacks, a common solution that a lot of people will use and have been for my whole career, if they can't qualify for enough, they'll co-buy with somebody else, or they'll have somebody co-sign with them. When somebody co-signs, we can refinance that person off at a later time. But getting into the house and owning the house and managing those payments and becoming a homeowner, stop wasting money on rent and owning that house, that's the key. And if you can get in there even for a few years and the co-signer's on with you for a few years, you obviously need to protect their credit because they've co-signed with you. But aside from that, you just push in there, and inevitably 3 to 5 years down the road, most home buyers have found kind of a cruising altitude, and it's gotten a lot easier. So the 3 blockers, down payment, credit, and payment shock, there are solutions. Talk to us. That's our job, is to find a way, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. And so we do find a way for a lot of folks. Okay, where are interest rates at? Let's change pace a little bit. Where are interest rates at? Where are they going? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see real quickly here. Interest rates are, you're looking at FHA, VA, USDA are around 5.5. You can see conventional there. Now the national average today is over 6.5. So this means that you are paying a little bit to get these interest rates. These are not no fees options. They have a 1.5% origination fee or buy down or whatever you want to call it, lender fee. That's why you have the APRs that are just a little bit higher than that. So where are interest rates heading? People ask me that all the time. So I ran. That's been the number one answer for so long this year. It had nothing to do with interest rates until March when we attacked. And they've had everything to do with interest rates ever since. And now that the peace deal is starting to come through, interest rates are starting to look better. Now we're still semi-elevated, but they're starting to look better. I mean, and it may take us a couple months, but the price of gas is projected to go, it's under $4 a gallon now, and it's projected to go down to $3.50 a gallon in the very near future. And they may continue to go down even further than that. But that's going to help deflate a lot of things that have inflated because of that. And that's, of course, going to alleviate some of the big concerns and fears that we've been having that's driven interest rates up. So Iran is bringing good news. Interest rates sometimes move very quickly, but sometimes they take a minute to finally get to their best levels, and then they are only there momentarily. So if you have any thoughts of getting a new mortgage, it is time to prime the pump. Okay, so pay attention. If we already have your information, so we're rate watching for you, I'll keep rate watching. But if I don't have your information, I can't rate watch for you. If you're wanting to buy, be careful trying to time the market. It's really not possible. There's too many variables in a purchase. That's why it's time to buy already, and then you refinance when the rates go down. So there's interest rates. Now let's talk about home buyer. What do you want to call it? I guess house prices. Where are house prices going and why? So what you have up on my screen right now is called household formations. This is measuring the number of people that are creating new households every year. And so you can see the years down on the bottom, January 22, and you can see this means 2 million households a year. So what a household is like when your kid moves out from mom and dad's and creates their own new place, that's a household. And when a married couple gets divorced, that creates 2 households. And as such, 2 singles get married, that removes 1 household. Anyway, you get the idea, and you can see how incredibly elevated household formation has been for the last 4 years. 2 million household formations a year is really, really high. This is the millennials. This is, a lot of Gen Z, but this is dominantly the millennials that's who's forming households and stuff. And you can see just how incredibly high it is. It did dip all the way down to 1.2 million, but 1.2 is still a massive number of households to be formed in a year. This is measured every quarter, so you can kind of see where it goes back and forth based on what happens in that quarter. But look at that. Look how many months we were averaging over 2 million households a year, and then even still hanging out pretty high to that number, dipping finally all the way down here to under 1 million households a year last fall, but kind of spiking back up to 1.5 this year, where we're at now. Now, this is demand. This is what's driving home prices up. This is why home prices have continued to climb despite higher interest rates, is because there's so many people that are just becoming their own selves and having their own places and forming their own families, and they can't live with mom and dad anymore. And frankly, a lot of the demand is actually can't live with mom and dad anymore. There's just not room, or something like that. So this is a really important feature. That's a really important point to understand, because there's a lot of sideline borrowers as measured by. So there's a statistic, I was looking for it and couldn't find it to put it up on the screen, but since 1940, they've been measuring 25 to 35-year-olds and how many of them live with their mom and dad. And so in 1940, 17% of 25 to 35-year-olds were still living in mom and dad's house. But that statistic went down in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then started coming back up around 10 years ago, and it is up over 17% right now. So that means that we have more 25 to 35-year-olds living with mom and dad than we have had in 80 years. And that's what we call pent-up demand, and you're seeing it. And so when I say these people had to move, it was probably more of a had to move than wanted to, because nobody really likes the rates these days. And so anyway, but check this out. So supply. So builders, as you know, they are the supply, right? There's new homes coming in to match these new households, or is it? You can see back in 2022, it wasn't too far off that 2 million number. 1.8 million houses were built. But check this out, how it just drops off a cliff as the rates go up. It spikes back up to 1.6, but it's averaging under 1.4 mil. And you can see that we had households over 2 mil and even still at 1.65 while they're only building 1.2. So what that tells you is that there is not an increased supply. Everybody talks about a crash. Is there ever going to be a crash? And how can there be a crash when there's not enough homes for the households that exist? Right? The crash happened in 2008 because there weren't as many households. There were people buying them to rent them, and because anybody could do it, there was no financing requirements. If you had a heartbeat, you could qualify for a loan. Then everybody was doing it, and everybody was, having, I don't know who was even renting all these places, but when the crash happened and people lost their jobs, then they kind of consolidated households, and that was it. So that's why I was saying the point over here where they kind of are having to move, and there's not a lot of people that are just like, oh, I'm looking forward to it. Or the people that are moving, they're able to sustain and have to sustain their move. And so it's really, really interesting to note there's not a lot of optional buying, and there's a very small number of homes being built to match it. So that's a deep dive. Where are home prices going? They're going up. Unless builders come and double this number for an extended period, that's the only thing that would send prices down at this point. So anyway, hopefully that's useful information. Wanted to share that with you. Hopefully you have a great night or morning or weekend, depending on when you're listening to this. Thanks for your attention and join me.